So for all 5 of you that have not heard of Jujutsu no Kaisen, it's a series that is heavily inspired by Bleach, yet manages to stand on its own 2 legs as its own unique series, with characters like Itadori, the protagonist, Todo, one of the rival characters, and the subject of this video, Gojo, being some of my favorite characters. Now, Gojo himself has been the topic of much debate over the past few weeks, as he has gotten the treatment that most overpowered characters get, the can they beat Goku treatment, right? People have been pitting him up against so many different characters from so many different franchises that it's starting to get a bit ridiculous with the matchups that people are starting to give this guy. So in this video, we're going to talk about the strength and speed of Gojo, kind of talk about his abilities, and hopefully answer the question of how powerful this character actually is. Now, for those of you that want to remain spoiler free, I'm only going to go up to chapter 91, because for the most part, that's going to give us everything we really need for Gojo's like powers, his abilities, his strength, his speed, all that good stuff. So that way, if anything in this video actually interests you, there's still like 60 plus chapters you can read after that that are just not going to be spoiled for you whatsoever. However, if this is something that you would like to see me do more, like you want to see me cover more Jujutsu no Kaisen characters, which I would love to do, considering that it's very similar to Bleach. I would love to do matchups like Todo versus Kenpachi or Itadori versus Ichigo. Gojo versus so many different characters in Bleach sounds really cool. So if this sounds like something that you would enjoy, go ahead and leave it a like and subscribe, as it does show that you would really like to see me cover more from this series. And if you really want to go that extra mile and support me directly, you can click that join button and get access to hidden content on the channel, as well as hidden channels in the Discord. But without further ado, let's talk about Gojo. Now, when talking about power, there's quite a few different tiers that Gojo could fit into. First and foremost, he creates this massive explosion when we first see him demonstrate the purple ability, and it creates this town level explosion that rips right through Haname, the forest curse guy. But even more impressively than that, he beats up Jogo, who's able to create this massive mountain of iron, which is actually a mountain level feat. However, I'm pretty sure that nobody really cares about these low end feats. You guys want to know about the big Mac Daddy feats, right? So above that would actually be planetary, as Gojo is pretty consistently said to be the strongest character in the verse, and that would include people like Sukuna, the big Mac Daddy demon of the verse, the guy that is inside our protagonist's body right now. And he is said to have the power to actually destroy the world, right? And he is inferior to Gojo, at least he is allegedly inferior to him. So planetary is pretty good, but it's not quite the infinite power that everybody wants Gojo to actually have. Now, where that comes from is Gojo's actual main ability, and that is the infinity or limitless ability, which basically creates an infinite amount of distance between him and his opponent, and he does say that he creates it himself. So if you believe that he's capable of doing that, then he is actually creating an infinity, and that would actually scale to him. He would then have like infinite power. There's also the limitless void or the unlimited void. It does tend to vary depending on the translation that you use, but if you want to say that he's creating an infinite space as well, then yeah, that also qualifies for him having infinite power. And if anything, funnily enough, it is the most consistent tier for him to be at. Like, it doesn't actually matter if he has infinite power, because nobody really scales to him. He just actually mollywops everybody that he comes into contact with. The only person to actually ever really do any damage to this man was Fushi's dad when they were younger, and that was before Gojo actually got the title of being the strongest. And even then, that dude like stabbed him in the back, like tore him apart, and then Gojo got up a few minutes later and then just blasted that dude to Kingdom Come and murdered him, right? So it's like, even when he wasn't like the quote-unquote strongest, he was still an absolute insane maniac. However, speed is also pretty nutty as well. I'm sure you would assume that this man has infinite speed, because that's the whole like point of his ability. He has the infinite power, so surely he's like crossing infinite distances, or he's moving in infinities or something like that. But it's actually way more insane than that, because when Gojo is, spoiler alert, sealed in chapter 91, he is sent to a place that has no time and is still shown to be capable of moving in an area that does not have time. Now, maybe you could try to say that because he has like the limitless or infinity quality that somehow makes him neg the effects of moving in an area of having no time, but I don't think that's actually explicitly stated. That would kind of be you making that assumption. So instead, we would just assume that he's doing this through raw speed alone, which would actually mean he has inaccessible speed, which is a tier above infinite speed, although it's still below immeasurable speed. And let me kind of explain. So you have any finite amount of speed, right? Like say you're moving 15 times the speed of light, 100 times the speed of light, a million times the speed of light. Those are all finite numbers, right? Then we have infinite speed, where you're actually moving at an infinite interval. So say that you move an infinite amount of distance in any quantifiable amount of time, or you move any amount of distance in literally no time, like through teleportation. That would be infinite speed. Now, inaccessible speed is based off the concept of inaccessible cardinal, which are basically combining infinities. It's the idea that infinity plus 1 is bigger than just infinity, or infinity plus 2 is bigger than infinity plus 1. It's that whole idea. Whereas then the next tier, immeasurable speed, you can't even measure it with infinities, right? Because it's beyond measure at that point. You're moving beyond time, speed, and all these other crazy things. You're moving beyond distance at that point. But inaccessible speed is like higher end infinity levels of speed, if that makes sense. And Jogo moving in an area that has no time would actually qualify him for that level of speed. So far, I'd say he's kind of living up to the hype. Infinite power and inaccessible speed is quite insane. But what about his abilities? Are his hacks up to snuff? Can he bring the insane broken abilities to actually finish the job? To which I would say, yeah, he's got some pretty insane abilities. The infinity or limitless ability is quite broken. Now, it's very similar to someone like, say, Accelerator's ability and his ability to manipulate vectors, just not quite as insane as like Accelerator gets into higher dimensionality, and his ability is just nuts with what it could do. If you've seen Index or you've seen Railgun, you know what I'm talking about. But he's not that far off, actually. If they just expand upon the infinity in a little bit, right, like after this man gets out of the seal, because come on, he's not going to be stuck in the cum cube for the rest of the series. He's going to get out eventually, and if they expand upon his ability, it could get to these levels of insanity. But basically, right now, what it does is it pushes an infinite space between you and your opponent, so you can basically never be hit. And you might think, well, let me just catch the guy off guard, because if I can hit him before he can react and put up his ability, then I can smack him around and I'll win. But that's not going to happen, because he developed a method to keep his ability active 24/7. At all times, his ability is active. And you might think, well, that's going to drain a lot of his stamina, so how can he keep that up? Well, turns out he also developed a technique that is like super high speed regeneration. So as his stamina is being drained by keeping the infinity up 24/7, his other technique is regenerating his stamina 24/7. So basically, he has nigh infinite stamina, kind of going with the whole infinite meme that we have with Gojo. But that's not even the end of it, because there's more. It's not like he just has this one ability. It's like, okay, you can't touch him. Turns out, this series has a thing called domains, which is kind of like if you took your inner world in Bleach and projected it into the real world. And so some people make weird chimera, disgusting layers where it's like arms and stuff are grabbing people, and some people make giant volcano lands where it's just really hot. Well, I don't know, Gojo's the infinity guy. What do you think his domain is? Oh, the unlimited void? The infinite void? Yeah, that's his. And do you know what it does? It literally causes the target to experience everything. You experience everything at once, basically destroying the user's mind, causing them to be unable to move. It's almost like you force omniscience onto somebody and they don't know what to do with it, right? They just become unable to do anything. And as we see in the fight between Gojo and Jogo, when he uses this ability on him, Jogo is unable to do anything. And that guy's no slouch. He's really strong. He's the equivalent to 9 of Sukuna's fingers, which that's kind of how they gauge threats in this series. Like, they're just like, oh, you're like equivalent to like 9 out of 20 of his body parts, right? Which, considering that 3 fingers is like strong enough to body like most special grades, 9 is quite significant. And yet he's able to do that to this guy and then just walk over and pull his head off of his body. So I would say that his abilities do live up to the hype. They are quite powerful. On top of like him having supernatural awareness, he has the 6 eyes, which basically give him mad insight into fights. Like, he can kind of like see through abilities with the 6 eyes. So this man really lives up to like the title of strongest in his verse, because he is insanely powerful, he is insanely fast, he is ridiculously skilled when it comes to hand-to-hand combat. He has 2 abilities that are both redonkulously powerful. And then for cross-verse matches, he's got like spiritual awareness, he can attack people on the soul. They actually do mention that like killing curses means you have to kill them at like a mind, body, and soul level. So like everybody in the verse might just have existence erasure, which is like just a tier below conceptual erasure, which is really, really good. Now, would I say he's going around soloing everybody's favorite verse? I mean, maybe. Like, if I drop this guy in Bleach, he's going to do a decent amount of damage. He's going to be considered a high tier character. If I drop him in Naruto, if I drop him in Dragon Ball Z, yeah, he's going to be a pretty high tier character in those verses. So it's understandable why people are like, oh yeah, this is like the solo god. This is the guy that's going to like mess up your favorite verse. Although pitting him up against characters like Accelerator, like Fate characters, Daisai Ray characters, that's a little bit too much, right? That's a little too much. I like Gojo a lot. Let's not have him get flattened by some of these people. But what do you guys think? Leave a comment down in the comment section down below how powerful you think Gojo is. Did you already know that he was this powerful? Were you already on the Jujutsu no Kaisen wave way before I even made this video? Or are you like, dang, this guy's really powerful, I need to check out this manga, I need to read this series? Because it is quite good. It's a slow start, but it's very, very good. I thoroughly enjoy it. If you guys would like to see me make more content, please click that like and subscribe button. Show this video some love. If this video does well, I will not be opposed to doing more videos on Jujutsu no Kaisen, because I would love to do a video on Itadori, Todo, Maki, my boy Fushi's dad. There's so many characters I would love to talk about. There's so many matchups I would love to do. Gojo versus like anybody is super interesting because he's a very powerful and fun character just overall. It makes the matchup really interesting. Todo versus Kenpachi would be really cool because Todo is based on Kenpachi, yet manages to be his own unique character. Like, you can see the inspiration and where it comes from, but like, man, is he just completely separate from Kenpachi in every way at the same time. And then Itadori versus Ichiko sounds like an obvious one that I should do, but let's just see the video get support. Let's see this video do well, and I hands down will do more Jujutsu no Kaisen videos. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day. Peace late, guys.